Welcome. So, this morning's session is all about creativity. We're going to be doing some vision boarding of sorts, and I wanted to make the suggestion that this could be done in a number of ways, depending on what calls to you. So, you could definitely do the more traditional kind of crafty variation. I'm thinking like big sheet of paper, maybe some magazine clippings, some of the bits and pieces that I sent to you guys in the mail. I've got my big rollout pen, like colored pens ready to go, whatever you have. Another option, if that's not available to you or that's not calling to you, is that you could also do this, maybe not necessarily live right now, but you could definitely go through this process in either Pinterest or Canva. So that would be like a variation of making a vision board digitally, and there's definitely options to do that in both Pinterest and Canva. My personal preference is to do a hands-on variation because it's just so lovely to cut things out and stick things down and kind of get a bit crafty and a bit sensory. It's sort of a bit like the equivalent of reading an actual book versus reading on a Kindle or something like that. It's just nice to have something tangible and work with your hands. But Pinterest and Canva are both great options if not. I'm going to guide you through a process today that will be in 7 parts, reflecting the 7 chakras, and we'll be reflecting on 7 different areas of your life. And we'll be using the colors of the chakras to kind of feel into a little bit the vision boarding idea. So you could think about this as being a practice that's going to lead you into 2024, like we're at the end of the year. So it's beautiful to kind of think about this as a marker of reflection on the year that has been and sort of moving into next year. Or it could just be a bit of fun, a bit of a kind of snapshot of where you're at the moment. I think sometimes what's really useful when we do this type of practice is to not be too much in the linear mind, like not be too much in the kind of masculine thinking, logical, what's the right way to do this kind of mind, but rather just explore and create and play and see what comes up. And I know for myself, when I've done these types of practices before, I've always had the experience of having insights or, little flashes of awareness that wouldn't have come otherwise. As you guys know, I'm a big journaler. I love to journal. So often for me, written word is a big part of it. But there is something to be said, again, for getting out of that more sort of cerebral, wordy mind and into images and visions. So with that said, we're going to move between a little bit of meditation and reflection and then kind of working on our vision board in whatever format that looks like for you, and then back and forth in between the two. And if you're working in Canva or in Pinterest, then you can obviously be doing that sort of simultaneously as well. And for those of you listening to the replay, obviously, which is quite a few people, I had a lot of emails this morning saying that people will be catching the replay, which is totally fine. Obviously you can choose your method. And, I think this will be a session as well. Obviously, it will be posted up in the portal that you might want to come back to. So you might want to do this, every 6 months or so, or once a year or something like that. Like, it's definitely something that can be repeated and probably be quite interesting to see what different things come up. So with all of that said, let's just begin with a meditative sort of checking in and orientation. So leaving all your bits and pieces to the side and just gently closing down your eyes. As I said, we're roughly going to use the chakras as our framework. And the beautiful thing about the chakras is that they give us a bit of a color guideline. So we're going to kind of work through the rainbow of the chakras together. Let's begin by just closing down the eyes and coming into sacred space together. May we step into the non-linear state of creativity. May we be free in our imaginings and our visions. May we open up the portal of imagination, what Swami Satyananda said or described as the screen of the imagination, like a television screen, but so much more vivid, so much more alive, so much more filled with potential. May the screen of the imagination be available to us. And let's take a moment at the beginning of our sacred circle to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land, their deep creativity, the beautiful artwork, particularly I'm thinking about Indigenous Australians, such powerful imagery, depictions of nature and the world around us, stories, legends, mythology, all coming through in the creative spirit. Let's acknowledge our First Nations people for holding this great capacity for beautiful creative work. And now bring your awareness to the very lower part of the spine, the base chakra, a spinning vortex of life and energy, Muladhara. And just take a moment to tune into this energetic portal for women below the womb space, encompassing sexual organs, base of the spine, perineum. And the color here is red. The quality is stability. So with your eyes gently closed, allowing yourself to see the screen of the imagination, which might be located between the eyebrows, drop into the color red. What images are being shown to you? The quality of stability through the color red. Where in your spiritual practice do you hold stability? Where in your life do you hold stability? Where in your work in the world do you hold stability? Okay, and then gently opening up the eyes. Now you might want to, depending on what you've got in front of you, if it's a notebook, perhaps you'll use 7 pages. If it's a large sheet of paper, you might want to somehow break it into 7. If you're working digitally, we're going to need 7 somethings. So depending on however you're working, think about that. You might, if you've got a large sheet of paper, you might just create 7 bubbles on the sheet of paper, for example. And our first bubble, our first page, our first offering is stability, and we're grounded in the color red. So you have freedom now to spend a few minutes downloading whatever is alive for you in that way. You might write, you might draw, you might cut pictures out and stick them down. There might be particular images that come to mind. Perhaps red as it appears in the natural world, the red of a sunset, the red of a beautiful rose or other red flowers. For me, red is always a very regal color. So I always have the imagery around sort of royalty, and red and gold somehow often go together very closely in the screen of my imagination, but you might have a completely different experience. And just remember, this process is not one of necessarily creating art. So if you don't think of yourself as artistic, or you can't draw, or you're not very creative, it really doesn't matter. It's just about playing. It's about playing. Red, stability. And in terms of imagery, as well as the color and the sort of representation of the color, you might also ask the question, what intentions do you have around creating more stability? So there might be particular images that come to mind that could be an anchor point for you around what stability would look like. That could be financial. You might have an image of a dollar sign or a little pile of banknotes. It might be the image of a beautiful home. I have an image on my altar that springs to mind, which I'll share with you in the post when we upload. It just came into my mind now, which is of a beautiful, beautiful home with a contented woman residing in that cottage, that beautiful, cozy home. And I placed it on my altar because it reminds me of the beauty and the joy in homemaking and the stability that that creates for my family and for my children. And as we move through each of the 7 chakras this morning, you might feel like you wish you had more time for a particular area, or you wish you started and you didn't get time to finish. Of course, this entire process is to be continued. It's an ongoing exploration. So you can come back to it in the coming days, coming weeks. Let's move to the 2nd chakra, the 2nd energy center. So completely up to you. Feel free to either close down the eyes and come back to that meditative anchor if that's helpful to you, or continue. Just if you're in a flow, feel free to continue as I'm speaking and working through the chakras. You can continue to kind of let that flow happen and let your vision boarding continue to unfold. So 2nd chakra is located just below the navel. The energy center is named Swadhisthana. And the color is orange. Orange. And the focus is relationship, particularly partnership. So we can think about this in terms of partnership with our intimate partners, but it could also be creative partnerships, business partnerships, might even also be our relationship with our children. Realm of relationship, color of orange. I remember a friend of mine recently, I was visiting her at her home, and she was showing me her vision board that she had created a year ago. And she actually had it up on the wall in her office, and she'd framed it like it was a pretty elaborate vision board. And it had magazine cuttings. So she'd done it like a kind of collage montage of different magazine clippings. And she was showing me how there were all these different areas on the vision board that had come to fruition. Like she'd had areas around her business, her finances, her home. She'd cut out a picture of a beautiful spiral staircase. And actually, since creating that vision board, she'd moved into a house that had a beautiful spiral staircase. But the one area that she had yet to manifest was relationship. And on her vision board, she had a picture of a woman that looked a little bit like her with a man. And they were kind of embracing. And she was just talking me through the different sections of her vision board and how this was the one area that was still, that she was still working on manifesting. And that once that was kind of taken care of, once she'd called in a beautiful relationship, she'd be creating a new vision board and popping that up on the wall. So it might be, as we work through these different chakras, these different energy centers, that some areas feel very abundant and nourished and easeful, and others feel quite stuck or absent or difficult. And that's the nature of the chakras. It's the nature of the energy centers, that sometimes there is a free flow and energy is clear, and other times there is a lot of stickiness and energy is disrupted. We might ask ourselves in this particular area, what intentions do you have around cultivating more skillful relationships? What intentions do you have around cultivating more skillful relationships? Moving on to the third chakra, Manipura, located above the navel. Quality of confidence. Color, yellow. So here you might wish to spend a moment on the screen of your imagination, seeing yourself in your most empowered, in your most graceful, seeing yourself in your zone of genius, sharing your work with the world. Seeing yourself feeling good in your physical body and looking good, feeling that you know that you look great, in your confidence. Knowing that the gifts that you have to share with the world are abundant and well received. Confidence, courage, walking the path of our true Dharma. These are all the qualities of Manipura chakra. Color of yellow. One of the things I did recently to honor Manipura is I went through my jewelry and I went through my wardrobe and I picked out outfits and pieces of jewelry that I haven't worn for a long time, or that have kind of just been collecting dust or not really used. And I actually created some new outfits and some new kind of creative expressions, I guess, through fashion and through clothing, without spending any money. So often we think, oh, I have to go and buy a bunch of things. But it's really beautiful to just look at what you've already got. And I even went so far as to make a list in my notebook of outfits that I feel good in, combinations and colors, and clothes that I already have that I sometimes maybe don't wear that I feel good in. So that on days when I'm feeling a bit flat or I'm feeling like I haven't got anything to wear, I've got that list there as a beautiful reminder from a time when I was feeling creative. This is all part of Manipura. Where do you feel most comfortable? Where do you feel the most yourself, in expression of your fullest self? And again, you might cut some pictures out of magazines. You might find some images you might have some pictures that are inspiring to you. Might not necessarily be pictures of you, but they might be colors, ideas, prints, haircuts. I mean, it can be as superficial as that. We don't always have to be super deep and meaningful. Sometimes it's just about adornment and enjoying playing with our physical confidence as well as our emotional and energetic confidence. Sometimes if we're feeling a little bit deflated or a little bit sad, there's so much going on in the world at the moment, just taking a little bit of time to care about the way that we look can be really a beautiful thing. It can actually be part of our spiritual practice to embellish ourselves, to wear nice clothing, to engage with our physicality. And I think as women, that's often a beautiful celebration of our femininity. Of course, confidence shows up in so many ways. I'm speaking mostly about physical appearance here. There's lots of other ways that confidence shows up, but it's beautiful to explore embodying ourselves fully in our physical expression. You might also save space on your vision board here for practices or contemplations or images that will inspire confidence in you at times that you're feeling not so confident. Also, music. That can be a great confidence booster. Particular pieces of music might come through. Let's move to the fourth chakra, located at the heart center. Just take a moment to pause and place your hands on your heart. Gently close down your eyes and just feel into what is alive in the heart space right now. And as I mentioned before, there's a lot of distress in the world at this time. And I want to make the suggestion that whilst it's really important for us to engage with activism, to do all that we can to support others who are suffering, whether it's through donations, through using our voice, through raising awareness, through direct action, whatever it might be. At the same time as engaging in this type of activism, we can also enjoy the beauty in the world and engage with joy. It doesn't have to be either or. A dear friend of mine recently went on a long holiday to Mexico, and she was posting lots of beautiful, beautiful pictures of, she's a photographer, so the most divine pictures of Mexico and her and her sisters, they were traveling together. And she was also posting a lot, because she's an activist, about what's going on in Gaza right now, and a lot of politically very intense sharings. And she was telling me that she got a lot of criticism for sharing pictures of herself in pretty dresses and beautiful Mexican interiors next to what's going on in Gaza. And she wrote a long response to these critics. And we had a conversation about this. And I have to say, I wholeheartedly agree with her that the suffering and the pain can sit next to the beauty and the joy and the creativity, because it's through art, it's through our creative endeavors, it's through seeing the beauty in the world that we remember our humanity. In my opinion, it's perfectly okay to post pretty, somewhat superficial or frivolous, joyful imagery next to the most abhorrent suffering and pain that is going on our planet at this time, and to hold space in our hearts and in our minds for the paradox of that. And isn't it true that our own human experience mirrors that we have moments of great joy and great beauty and great elevation, even in one day, and other moments of struggle and darkness and suffering? This is what it is to be human. So we hold space for all of it. We hold space for all of it. Anahata chakra, the key word is compassion, and the color is green. And there's a beautiful deity in Buddhism, Green Tara, who always has her hands outstretched in giving to the world. She's a deity that represents the Divine Mother, altruism, giving back, compassion, Green Tara. And she is the embodiment in Buddhism, at least, of this energy center in the body. Gently releasing your hands and coming back to your vision boarding work. Where in your sharing with the world do you hold compassion? Where in your sharing with the world do you hold compassion? And perhaps also in this particular section of your vision boarding, of your creativity for today, thinking a little bit about that relationship between beauty, creativity, and the awakening of humanity and compassion. The role that art can play in our healing, art as healing. And for those of you who are watching the replay, you won't be able to see this because you can only see me, but I'm looking at the moment at some beautiful little Zoom boxes of everyone busily making their creations and engaging with the vision boarding. It's really lovely to see. Something so precious about being in space together. And Harry's asking a question in the chat. She says she's been doing Green Tara meditation, but wonders about connecting more with Blue Tara, giving out less, watching with compassion, but not ready to move and to give. You know, my perspective on that is there's space for both. Green Tara is very much about service. It's very much about the energetics of giving, compassion, support. And then Blue Tara is more around our own, really what we could call self-care in a modern sense, like our own engagement with compassion internally. At least that's my understanding. And I truly believe that there's space for both, and that both are essential, both are needed. Oh, beautiful. It seems like Green Tara is I'm just looking at the chat, Green Tara is resonant for many of you, which is so lovely. She is the bodhisattva of compassion. She is the bodhisattva of endless loving service. Perhaps a green Tara image on our vision boards. Let's move now to the fifth chakra, which is located at the throat center. This is Vishuddha chakra. The focus is communication. Very close relationship to satya or truth telling. The color is blue. Vishuddha chakra located at the throat, focus of communication and truth. Color is blue. And through imagery, through words, through collage, through drawing, let's ask the question, let's reflect the question. What intentions do you have around cultivating better communication? What intentions do you have around cultivating better communication? So maybe we have a green Tara in the compassion space and a blue Tara in the communication space. After all, so much of our communication is around boundaries or lack of boundaries, which so often taps into the self-care piece. Where are we able to speak to what we need? Where are we able to ask for what we need? Where are we able to set and assert and maintain healthy boundaries? Communication as a method of clear boundary keeping. My teacher, Sharon Gannon, would say what you mean and mean what you say. Say what you mean and mean what you say. Let's move now to the point between the eyebrows, Ajna chakra. Color is indigo or purple. This energy center in the body is sometimes known as the seat of the soul or the center for intuition. And our keyword here is intuition. And as I mentioned before, this is the location of the screen of the imagination. So the invitation here is to dream bigger, to be more expansive in our imaginings. Wherever we find ourselves blinkered or contained or restricted, the energy of this chakra is an invitation to expand right out of that, to kind of explode out of the realm of what we think is possible. We're also very clearly guided here by intuition. So as you might want to close your eyes down for a moment and just feel into the screen of the imagination and see what comes up again. And as you do so, a reminder, it's just not about rational thinking. It's not about the logical mind. It's really about sitting in the vast ocean of awareness and allowing whatever arises to bubble up. All imagery is welcome. The screen of the imagination is so rich in teachings for us. Color vibration, indigo or purple. Allowing whatever is manifest, whatever is being channeled through, whatever is naturally arising on the screen of the imagination to be honored and to be viewed with curiosity, without judgment, and without too much interfering of an analytical mind. Not letting the logical, sometimes cynical, analytical mind distract us from the beauty of allowing whatever wants to unfold in the screen of the imagination to do just that. Finally, let's move to the crown chakra, crown of the head. Now, the key word here is enlightenment, but I also want to emphasize the quality of being humble. Very closely linked to the capacity for enlightenment, for true insight, for true awareness, is the quality of being humble. Reverent in the face of the majesty of the world around us. The color here is white, luminous, bright white light, a luminosity. It's when we see the beauty, when we see the joy, when we see the radiance of all around us. And here we might reflect on intentions that we have around cultivating a sweet sense of humility without sacrificing a strong sense of self-love. How can you set intention for creating sweet humility without sacrificing your self-love? There's a beautiful word in the Sanskrit language, samadhi, which is another word for enlightenment. But in actual fact, the direct translation of samadhi is same as the highest. And this is really what this energy center is all about. It's about becoming our highest selves, becoming the same as the highest. It's really about our relationship with the divine. This is the true essence of bhakti, or wise love. So how can we visually express this? How can we show this? How can we illustrate this through our words, through the way that we speak, through the way that we carry ourselves, through all the things that we do? And the idea of enlightenment as becoming same as the highest, and that kind of has a twofold meaning. Like, firstly, the stepping into the potential of our highest selves, and secondly, really connecting to a higher power, connecting to the goddess, connecting to God. And I want to share with you that one of the most potent ways that we can do this, and this might seem trivial, it might not seem like a particularly profound practice, but I promise you it is. I promise you it is to see yourself as the best version of yourself. We spend so much of our time seeing ourselves, visualizing ourselves, imagining ourselves somehow failing, somehow not being quite good enough, not looking right, not saying the right words, not responding in the most intelligent way, second guessing ourselves, regret, later on thinking, oh, I wish I'd said this, I wish I'd done that. None of these ways of being help us to become same as the highest. If we could make a practice every day of seeing ourselves as holy, as already enlightened, and remember, this is in a humble way, it's not egotistical, it's to truly honor the gift of being embodied in a human life. Bhagavad Gita reminds us again and again, to have a human lifetime, to have a human experience incarnate in a human body is a great gift. It's a wonderful opportunity. Use it wisely. So to see ourselves as the same as the highest, to see ourselves as beautiful, intelligent, capable, doing our work in the world, and to make a practice of visualizing ourselves in that way. Any of us who are parents, generally we're very good at doing this for our children. Lots of words of affirmation, lots of reminding them how incredible they are, how capable they are, how amazing their bodies are, but we rarely do it for ourselves in the same way. So engaging with this chakra is an opportunity to do just that. Okay, I'm going to invite you to start to wrap up your vision boarding efforts for now. I'm sure that you will come back to this. I hope that you will. I hope it will be an ongoing process, something you might contemplate over the next few days and revisit. I'd love to spend our last few minutes together sharing. So if anyone has an experience that they would like to share, anything that came up this morning, any insights, any awareness, if you want to hold up some of your work and show it to us, we would absolutely love to see it. I would absolutely love to see it, with no judgment whatsoever. I definitely don't consider myself to be a very artistically talented person. Well, I love it. Thank you. Thanks for sharing. I love that image. I love, see these, I mean, even if you don't like, you're not an amazing artist and you can't depict it in the most like professional kind of looking way, just that idea of that imagery that is so clear. It's so beautiful when we get those downloads. That's exactly what we're talking about when we talk about Ajna Chakra and the screen of the imagination, that we just have these images that our intuition gifts us. It's really a gift. And then it can become an anchor point that you can return to when you do get stuck, or you do find yourself repeating a negative pattern or whatever it might be. Sometimes the image is so potent, it's so powerful and helpful. Thank you. Thanks everyone who was able to join live today. It's been so lovely to spend this time with you. I was really looking forward to this session, and yeah, I'm really glad that we were able to all be here together. And for those watching the replay, you can definitely post your offerings in the comments. We would love to see them. So if you create something gorgeous, or even not gorgeous, whatever you create, feel free to post it in the comments attached to this post. We'd love to see it. I think that would be a really beautiful way to continue the sharing. Thanks, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day.